You know, most people think confidence means never being nervous. But here's the truth. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to just keep showing up anyway. It's about trusting yourself enough to take the mic even when your hands shake. Let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk because when you treat confidence like a skill, not a gift, you start showing up with clarity, courage, and control. And I've got a guest who's all over this.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Simone Canego, is a keynote speaker, best-selling author of The Extraordinary, UnOrdinary You, and co-host of the globally ranked podcast, Her Unshakable Confidence. After summiting Mount Kilimanjaro at 42, Simone began helping high achievers build real confidence from the inside out using her signature REAL method, and she'll be explaining that shortly. A two-time TEDx speaker, she shares powerful mindset shifts and real-life stories that inspire people to lead with purpose and show up fully as themselves. Happy to have you with us, and welcome to the show, Simone.
Thanks so much for having me here today.
Pleasure. Let's dive right in with you. I want to start with that, with your views on confidence. You know, you say confidence is a skill, not a trait. And boy, do I want to believe that. So how did you realize that for yourself and walk the skeptics through that?
So I think for years, I looked at other people and said, oh, I wish I could be confident like them, right? Oh, they just appear so confident. And it was actually through a conversation that I had with some women who are very successful, or appear to be very confident. And then as soon as you actually break it down and talk to them, they struggle just like everyone else. So what was happening and what would happen with me for a long time is that I put on a show. I felt like I had to be everything to everybody because that was what was expected. And so people just assumed I was confident. And on the inside, I was struggling beyond belief. And it really took a moment where I was at this women's event and I just finally let it all go and said, I'm not confident. Like, I don't even cry because if I cry, that means I'm weak. And I just shocked so many people by saying this is not how I feel. And so really what I learned after that is just like anything, like our mindset, we have to build it. It doesn't just, so, okay, maybe as a baby, when we're born with certain traits and we grow up in certain ways, but life chips away at us, right? And so that's where we start doubting everything. That's where we lose our confidence. But I truly believe that just like anything else, just like going to the gym, we can build things up.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with you, by the way. You don't have to convert me. It's just that I'm running around converting people myself, not on confidence per se, but when I work with people and teach them how to sell, a lot of them think they don't have the style for that. And there's sort of that skill and the trait. And yes, some people are born with a head start, but there are repeatable, predictable steps that we can take that begin to kind of even the battlefield a little bit. But it's a tough one to get people through, particularly when a lot of times, how are they coached? Through basically people who are showing them their traits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that they're not breaking it down to process. They're saying you just need to, go in and let them know who's boss. Well, that's your style and that works for you, but I'm not so sure that's a repeatable, predictable process that I can emulate. And when I do, I'm going to look like a knucklehead.
Right. So it's funny. I saw this picture on social media the other day of a fresh strawberry next to a strawberry with fungus. And it's like, you are what you surround yourself with. And it's so true because if you leave that one fungating strawberry in there, guess what? The whole thing goes bad. And so it is so important who we surround ourselves with and even more importantly, how we talk to ourselves.
Right.
Because so two of the things, like when we talk about processes, I'll give you one thing first of all. And I think that the words we say are so important. And I think for years, and I listen to people on a daily basis, how they describe themselves. And when they talk about their job, if they don't feel good about themselves, they always throw the word just in there. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just so-and-so's wife. I'm just a middle manager. I'm just the administration officer, whatever they are. And I think by dropping the just, it really changes the way we see ourselves. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that when we change the way we see ourselves, the world around us changes, because we are in charge of who we are. And yes, there's outside factors and everything, but the way we talk to ourselves, I think, is so important. And the way we talk about ourselves.
Yeah. One of the reasons why we booked you is because we go studying, we go looking at some of the shows you've done. And you and I actually connect on a lot of things. I write about, I'm not in your space, but I have to approach confidence if I'm going to work with people who want to be professional speakers or people who want to sell, they're putting themselves out there. And to your point, I tend to hone in on uh, another version of how we talk about ourselves. And that's when no one's around when we talk about ourselves. And we think it's funny. It disguises itself as teasing. Come on, jerkball. You can find that paper. Come on, knucklehead. You could. But if you call yourself a jerkball and a knucklehead all day long, and we tend to do that, how can that not begin to take hold?
Oh, it's so true. I mean, people say, oh, self-deprecating humor. It's just funny. No, it's actually not funny. I mean, you're talking bad about yourself to yourself. And I mean, studies show the more you hear of one thing, that's what you believe. So if you're constantly calling yourself a jerkball or whatever you're calling yourself, you start thinking that that's who you are, and you forget what you're capable of.
Yeah.
So yes, 100%. I think that when nobody's watching is just as important. I mean, for
Right.
me, in my space, I talk about mirror moments, how we talk to ourselves in the mirror, because I used to talk very negatively to myself. I had my daughter that I actually have the podcast with now walk in one time. I think she was 15, and I was getting ready for an event. And I was saying to myself, I can't believe you gained weight again. Like, why can't you control yourself? You're awful. You're ridiculous. And she walked in at that moment. She said, okay, first of all, and I didn't, it's corner of my eye. I'm like, oh crap, here we go. She's like, first of all, you're beautiful. Second of all, you're giving me a complex. How do you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own? And so I think a lot of times we don't realize that that behavior not only affects us, but the people around us. So if you don't respect yourself, how are you going to expect other people to, right? I mean, the
Right.
most important person to respect in your world is yourself first.
Right. And I hope people walk away with what you're saying and remind themselves that it masks itself as teasing frequently. In
Mm.
other words, I'm not really serious. Come on, idiot, where's your belt? It's if you only said it once a month, call yourself a knucklehead and look for your belt. But boy, it's a slippery slope. I'm with you on this one. All right, let's get real.
Mm.
I'm going to test your abilities as a podcaster and speaker, because I'm sure you could take that real method and deliver a 1 hour workshop on it right now. But what I want you to do is kind of nick it for me. I know that it's stands for something, and I've looked it up. Kind of walk us through it briskly, if you would.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So it's down it the real method is there's four parts to it, obviously, four letters. Stands for respect yourself. And the way I actually spell it, it's respect you hyphen ourself, right? So it's really about setting boundaries, understanding that one of the most powerful things you can do is say no. Because I was the yes girl for years. I said yes to everything. And one of the first steps in respecting ourselves is setting boundaries. Second part is embracing failures, right? We're taught from a young age, oh, you don't want to make that mistake. I mean, my parents were very much like that, where they were like, well, what will other people think if you do that? I don't care what anybody else thinks. Like, this is how you get out in the world. You got to try things. If you don't fail, it means you never try. So that step two is really embracing your failures and understanding that they're bumps in the road. They're not the thing that's not a stop sign. You keep going after that. Ask yourself what you want. This to me is one of the most important ones, because I think as we grow up, we stop asking that question. And it's really one of the most important questions, is asking ourselves what we want. Like, do you really know what you want? Have you thought about that recently? Or are you just going through the motions on a daily basis? And the last part is live without limits, because we limit ourselves every day. We say, "Oh, we're not capable of that." When I climbed Kilimanjaro, I had other women say to me, "Oh, I could never do that." And my question for them was, "Well, would you want to?" "No, I would never want to do that." I said, "Well, use that word instead, because you could absolutely do it. You just have to put in the work."
Right.
And I think that's the big part of, we limit ourselves every day, telling ourselves that we're not good enough, we're not capable enough, we're not worthy. And we need to understand that saying all those things to ourselves makes us live under limits, and we need to live without limits. So that's a little brief snapshot.
And gold star for you. Sometimes it's sort of like a free bird. I can go and make a bologna sandwich while some people work through their processes. I appreciate the brisk movement through it, and I get it. And you know what? I believe it or not, I'll tell you the one that resonated with me of the four. It's actually the second one. And remember, we all have a, but that embrace your failures part really resonates, because I work with a lot of people on a volunteer basis who are in career transition, and they're getting beaten up out there a
Mm-hmm.
little bit right now. And there's a phrase: everyone walks with a limp. Everyone has something. And ultimately, it really comes down to not what others think about your limp. That's what we seem to be focused on. It's, can you live with that limp? Can you accept the fact that's who you are? Embrace it. It's funny, even in a career transition sort of situation, then I'm talking to employers now. A lot of times when they see that limp, and it may be a stutter or just something, they're more concerned, are you okay with it?
Mm.
And some people, they're just so uncomfortable with it. I'm talking about the interviewee now, that the employer, yes, is challenged by it simply because it's holding you back. We're okay with it,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but you don't look okay with it, and that's the tough part sometimes.
Yeah. Every single person in this world is different. Like,
Right.
we focus so much on trying to be like someone else. And that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. I look at my kids, and sometimes I'm thinking, who are you trying to be? Because this is who you are.
Mhm.
And by changing all those things to be like someone else, like, you're not being you. And that's not what the world needs. The world doesn't need two of the same, person.
Right.
So I think that we do forget that when something bad happens or something that makes us different, we feel like we need to change it instead of embracing it.
Yeah. All right. So let's knock it around a little bit. There's the old saying, anybody can be up when they're up. It takes a winner to be up when they're down. So when you um, when you're not respecting yourself, when you're trying, well, let's put it this: when you're trying to respect yourself, but you're not feeling confident. Um, I've got a couple of tips that I throw out, but I'm not the subject matter expert. So you go first. Tell me what you do, because it's not if, it's when. I'm a pretty confident person. I can get knocked around too. So how do we react to it? Not if, but when it happens.
So I have a little method that I call Control Alt Delete. Back in the day, it was the reset for our computers. I look at it as a reset for our mindset. And so it's three steps. Yes, it sounds gimmicky. And you know what? Gimmicks sometimes work, right? When you're trying to, in the moment, remember something. Okay, what do I do? Like, how do I move forward right now? So the control part is really about controlling your mindset. So understanding that ultimately, not that you have complete control of your thoughts, but you can catch those thoughts when you start spiraling into that negativity. You need to understand that you can stop it, right? And so
Right.
that's the control part. The second part is taking out an alternative position. So a lot of times we'll say, I can't do something, or I'm not capable of this. And so it's really the opposite. It's like, when I do this, instead of what if I fail, it's when I succeed. Again, it's that big part of talking to ourselves. And the last part is delete the things that aren't serving you. So many of us keep people in our realm, or ideas in our mind, that we can't do all these things. And we have a lot of people that are toxic, that are around us. And so I think that delete part is obviously the end step, but it's really deleting the things that aren't serving us.
Yeah. You know what I like, and I appreciate, I don't know if you know, I'm an ex-Xerox guy, and everything we did had a process to it. Appreciate the fact that sometimes we take a topic like yours and we get very motivational about it, very inspirational about it. It's my dad used to say, "Here's my boy, the motivational speaker," and I would cringe. I stopped correcting him, but I would cringe because like I don't really want to be known like that. I mean, I'll inspire you while I actually show you ways
Mm,
to do that. What we're talking about. So I like the fact that you show up with processes and behaviors that actually attack what we're talking about as opposed to Rob whistle a happy song. Sometimes I just remind people about, I call it two words, track record. What
mm.
usually happens? I know that you're misusing your imagination vividly right now and you're going down this rabbit, but when you do this thing that's scaring you, and you have done it before, what typically happens? And well, it sounds like, oh, pretty well. Well, where are we going to put our mind then? I mean, you
Yeah.
know, so, but it's boy, the mind. That's what we got to fight sometimes.
Yeah. We can talk a lot about the things that other people say,
Right.
but at the end of the day, it's us. We are the people like looking at how we talk to ourselves, looking at what we say about ourselves, looking at how we treat ourselves, right?
Right.
I mean, that that opens the door for how other people are going to talk about us, how other people are going to treat us. Like if you're constantly belittling yourself and you're doing it in front of other people as well, it's going to be really hard for them to think of you as like, oh yeah, this is the person I want to promote,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah. Particularly if you're going to get up there and lead. Um, you know, uh, we looked through your book, and when we were looking through it. It's interesting. You kind of focused on small,
mm,
everyday choices, and not. So we were all looking for home runs, big things, big gestures, so to speak. Um, can can that actually? I mean, I'm with you, but convince everyone who's looking for the home run the difference between kind of everyday choices versus the bigger grand gestures to try and get things done.
yeah, so the big grand gestures are fantastic, right? You have the philanthropist who's donating millions of dollars, and then someone else looks at that person and says, "Well, that could never be me." Well, that doesn't need to be you. What are you doing on a regular basis? What are you doing in your daily life to make you the best person you can be to affect the other people around you? I'll give you a really small example
Hmm.
because the things that we think don't matter. So, my I have six children. My youngest son just graduated from high school, and we adopted our youngest three children. And Noah is on the autism spectrum. He went to a regular school and he's done fantastic. He's in college now, but there were days that were very, very difficult. And his eighth grade teacher, he had a lot of great teachers along the way, but his eighth grade teacher was fantastic with him and just really embraced him for exactly who he is. So I wrote her a handwritten note thanking her for really changing my kid's life. I have never seen her outside of school. So I handed it to her at graduation. And I just said, thank you so much for everything you've done. Random. I ran into her like 2 weeks ago and she started crying and said, I have never received a letter. I mean, she taught for almost 40 years. I've never received a letter like that in my life that really changed how I felt, how I ended my career. And, she was all teared up. And I think that we take those little things for granted, how much a little action can really affect someone's life. So you never know when you're opening the door for somebody and saying hello. They might have not had anybody talk to them in weeks. Who knows what anybody else is going through? So I think all of the little things we do every day really do change the world, and we shouldn't take them for granted.
Right. And I hope managers are listening to that because, again, I think you'll find that one of the things that I write about and really bugs me, and I'm not a management trainer, but I did some of it and was certified by a company used to be called Zenger Miller, and And one of the core pieces that I really focused on was recognition and the lack of it. And because most managers are looking for the grand gestures, they're looking for the big home run hit by an employee who's usually the superstar employee, anyhow. Okay. Uh, and they're missing some of those little simple everyday moves that people do appreciate being recognized for and are inspired to do other things. They don't need to be told, if only you could do this. Don't get me wrong. You got to leave that that small choice alone. But I wish managers would understand that little things inspire people. I mean, look for those little things. You can build a wonderful team that way.
Yeah, if you feel like you're not appreciated in any way, not that you need like outside gestures, but it doesn't hurt, right? I mean, if you, and especially if you're struggling with any sort of confidence issue, if you're struggling and you have a manager who never gives you good feedback and you think you're doing a good job, but you don't hear anything good, then it's really hard to know like what should I do moving forward? Should I try this? Should I try that? And so I do think it's really important that is there enough time in the day for all of it? I'm not sure, but it's still really important that we do recognize even the little things because that's what boosts people up and helps them want to do more.
Yeah, I'm with you. Tell me this, if I've got this right in some of our notes here, that you write about authentic storytelling and how that empowers others. For listeners who struggle to see their own value, what's a simple way to start sharing their story? Messy parts and all, and then fill it in with why that matters so much.
I think so many people don't realize they have a story. Everybody has a story. And so I think that's the first thing is kind of looking and saying, what is my story? How could I impact one person? And that's really when I started speaking, when I started writing. If I could impact one person, then I feel like that's a huge change, that I've done something that could potentially change someone else's life. And that's not saying it in an egotistical way. It's saying it in like, wow, like this could make a difference. So I think that whatever you've gone through, that if you're able to share that and impact that one person, which you will no matter what, because there's not one person I know that doesn't struggle with something. So by sharing what you're struggling with, what you're going through, and you're seeing this actually more on social media now, where instead of just showing the pretty moments, trust me, plenty of people still do that. But there are people that have huge followings that are showing the really tough moments. And I think it really helps people realize that they're not alone. So I think, first step is just understanding that you do have a story and then making the decision that you actually want to share some of the messy parts. I mean, that's kind of how I look at stuff. I wrote an article this week about the shoulder surgery that I just had and my experience in the recovery room, which was hilarious. I'm not going to talk about it right here, but it's just kind of like, it is messy, right? Life is messy. And if we try to pretend that things are great all the time, that's what I did for years. I just kept this facade up that my life was just fantastic. And I've been married for 32 years. I have an amazing husband. I have 6 kids. It is chaos. It is crazy. There is not a day that you're like, oh my gosh, how is this my life? Like things go wrong, but you have to have that mindset of like turning that into, how do I make things better instead of let me just get stuck in this negativity?
Yeah. I think that's it makes people more believable and more credible
Mm-hmm.
when we see the messy parts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes us more authentic. I as a speaker, I got into what I called my slump after a few years. I left Xerox and I was just knocking it dead all over the place. I was crushing on the road, and then my numbers started going back down again. And had somebody fly out with me, and they said, um, there's nothing messy, basically.
Mm.
You've done this so many times that I'm not so sure they can even relate to you anymore. Uh, you have to, you have to show a little side of that to them, uh, the messier side, and it makes you more relatable and more believable. And I I never forgot that message, and it's quite easy to share some of the messy parts, but it allows me to bond with those that I'm trying to inspire.
I think so many people are afraid of being judged by sharing the messy
Right.
parts. But again, you got to remind yourself that there's not one person that doesn't have messy parts. I mean, in one of my big keynotes, I talk about using a pee funnel on Kilimanjaro. Like, to me, that's the funniest part of the story because people are like, what is that? And I was like, yes, I mean, life is messy. You got to learn how to just talk about things and help other people. And it's funny, after a couple of the keynotes I gave the first time I used that story, people were like, oh my gosh, I needed that for hiking. Now I'm going to go I didn't even know that existed. And just like funny things that will help other people. I mean, trust me, I talk about, really hard things too, but it's so important to understand that if you don't share your story, it kind of stops with you.
Right.
And the idea of that messy piece is what people want to see. And what people remember when you're giving a speech, it's your stories. It's not the data. You can give statistics at the wazoo, but if you tell a really powerful story, that's what they're going to take away with them. And that's what they're going to be able to relate to. Not that, 75% of women struggle with imposter syndrome. I mean, we know that, but when you talk about a personal story that relates to that, that's what they take away.
Yeah. And I think that's what bonds you to that audience too, because they're in there for a reason. If they thought they were operating at 10 out of 10 on that topic of yours of confidence, I'm not so sure they'd be in the room. So they're in there for a reason,
Yeah.
and so I think that's a very smart move to make. I needed you, 20 years ago when I thought that, I'm going to make this so immaculate, they're going to love me. And I had to learn that even if it means sometimes I might have an answer, but I'm not so sure of the answer today, just because I don't want to have all the answers right now. I'm not so sure that's benefiting my audience. So it's funny that instinct versus logic. Sometimes
Mm.
our instinct is off on this particular piece.
Yeah. You really want to be relatable. And it's it's funny because when you learn how to speak, it's about being polished and being this. And every time I've seen a speaker that has had like a mishap on stage, for example, their heel gets stuck. I only wear sneakers on stage, but their heel gets stuck or they lose their place. It just makes them more relatable. And they're like, oh my gosh, that something like that happened to me last week. And, in the moment, the speaker's like, oh my gosh, like my career is over. But then they get the feedback afterwards saying, you're so relatable. Like we've had ridiculous things happen too. Thank you for being real.
Yeah. I actually wrote a piece one time called The Pursuit of Imperfection.
Mm,
And I love
I like
that
that.
piece. And you already know what it's about.
Yeah.
So I think our instinct, like I said, is a little off on this one. And it's not that I'm trying to do something wrong. Just relax. You're up there to be as human as you can. That's what this audience wants. Whether we're speaking on a stage or consulting one-on-one, they just want somebody they can trust that's authentic. And that means we can have a real conversation. It doesn't have to be immaculate. It just has to be real.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's no such thing as perfect. I mean, we hear so many people saying, "Oh, I'm striving for perfection," and you hear that from companies. Well, this has to be perfect, and there's no such thing as perfect. There's always going to be something that gets in the way, and it's really about doing your best and being your best.
Yeah. And you know what? And to me, I think it's really a myth that we're talking about. So,
Mm.
in your work with high achievers, give me another one about a myth about confidence that you tend to see.
That it's confidence is actually more common in men than women, and I know so many men who struggle. I mean, if you look at statistics, and I said, oh, statistics don't matter, but 80% of all people struggle with self esteem. So, they look at men and say, oh, he's just so confident. But then when you actually get into a conversation, it's the same thing. Like they have this facade that they put up because they're told that they have to act a certain way. You can't cry. You have to be quote unquote man, excuse me, manly. And you know, that's not how it works. Like we have to be human. We're not robots, right? Not yet, at least. Um, but it's really that is we're told to act and talk and behave a certain way. And that's what will make us confident. And so I see it a lot in men too, that they're like, no, I act this way, but this is how I truly feel. And so I think a lot of women will say, oh no, men are way more confident. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's true at all. So I think that's another misconception.
No, I was raised by a Marine and told on many occasions, men don't cry.
Mm.
And I wasn't told that when I was 15 either. I was told that when I was about 5. Men don't cry. And so that was sort of pounded into me. And it took me as an adult, not that I sob a whole lot, but to realize that it was okay. And but no, it's certainly that was coached out of me. You threw a number out earlier, and I was going to ask you about it because you said I believe 75% of women struggle with imposter syndrome or
Mm.
something along that line. And I wanted to cut in and go, what about men? Because I really
Mm.
thought not what we're saying, but really, what about men? Are we close to that number of
Uh,
75%?
Men are in the 65%.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's still pretty significant. I mean, I can tell you, my husband is a neurosurgeon, right? He truly saves people's lives on the daily. Okay. But there's days where he's like, uh, maybe they're going to find me out that I'm not as good as they think I am. I'm like, yeah, but you are the best. Like you truly are. You care. You're there. I mean, you have great outcomes, but it's like any person, right? You get in a situation that in the moment might seem really difficult and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not the right person for this, right? And we do that to ourselves all the time. So I think across the board, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, that we all have those thoughts and struggles. And, it's just reminding ourselves that we are capable of this. We've trained for this. We've put in the work. We know what to do. And it's our own mind that's getting in the way with everything.
Yeah. And quite frankly, I think what you just said should make people a little bit more confident. You're not alone. You're not a walking anomaly. You're right where everybody else is. I'm probably one of the most confident people you'll ever meet in your life when I have a microphone in my hand and I'm on a stage.
Hmm.
Okay? And when I'm not, and when I'm talking to the client, I'm still pretty darn comfortable because I'm working. But sort of that Michael Jackson, when I take the glove off, I'm not telling you that I'm not a confident person, but I'm nothing like what you just saw up there. And which is why I'm not really a guy who loves going on corporate meals and dinners the night
Mm.
before a big gig. I don't want to let people down. So I basically have to perform at dinner. And
Yes.
and I'm
Yep.
and I'm pretty good at it, but I'd rather than 5 people I don't know, why don't we make it 500? It's easier for me.
Mm.
And I know right where I'm going and what I got to do. Here is one big improv dinner. I hope you're enjoying your meal because I'm not. But it's what it is. Oh, wait a minute. I've got clients that are listening. Now I love having dinner with all of you. You know who you are. It's the other ones I have trouble with. I just
Uh,
have to do a little cleanup on aisle
yeah.
4.
Yeah. I mean, what you said makes a lot of sense is that when we're working, right, we have practiced and practiced and practiced. Like, what you're saying next. Like, you
Yeah.
really do. And when you're in a situation, but a podcast is different. A
Right.
podcast, who knows? Like, if the guest says something and you're like, oh, how do I recover from that one? Like, you
Right.
have to be more, I don't want to say on your toes, but it's definitely different than actually being on a stage. But then you go into a situation where you don't know what to expect, and that's completely different. And it's the idea of being confident enough that you just go with it, and whatever comes out of your mouth, you're okay with it. So
Mhm.
that's the other thing, is that if you say something you're like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? Who cares, right? You said it, and move forward
Right.
from
Own
it.
it.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, trust me, I've said some plenty of stupid things in my life, and I'm just like, yeah, well, that was probably not the right thing to say, but oh well.
Yeah. Particularly when you speak for a living, and I'm not referring just to a keynote, which many people think, oh, well, an hour, I guess that
Mm.
can happen. No, our keynotes for most of us are pretty tight. We're working with little changes here or there. It's the workshops for
Hmm.
me, because I'm 7 hours or I might be 2 days. And if you give me 14 hours in front of a room, I promise you, I'll step in it at least once. It's just math. But yep, we own it. We roll with it. We go with it. We keep going. Do you, by the way, I was going to ask you, do you keep a blog?
Yeah, I write a weekly newsletter on my website, and
Right. I'm asking because when you mentioned, sort of the skill of podcasting, I've kept a blog for 16 years.
oh wow.
And yeah, hooray for me. But I will tell you, really enjoyed podcasting much more because in a blog, I'm sitting alone
Mm.
writing. But what we're doing right now, whether I'm on your show or you're on my show, what's the name of your show again? I forgot.
Her unshakable
You
confidence.
see that trick? Okay. Depending on who's showing up, we have to just go with the flow, and I love the challenge of that.
Mm.
So I find myself sort of really slogging along on the blog a little bit because I'm not having as fun anymore because I learned, oh, this is much more fun, and I met a new person today.
Yeah.
But I do them both, like you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and also, so I host my podcast with my 22-year-old daughter.
Mhm.
And so we do every other week, we have a guest, and every other week, it's just the two of us. And I never know what's going to come out of her mouth. I mean, we're interviewing someone, and I'm thinking one direction, and she's seeing something totally different.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun to kind of see her perspective. And I'm 53, so that age difference too, when you're talking about confidence or different skills, it's really fun to watch her build her confidence. And I really think that podcast has really helped her do it. But yes, I much prefer a conversation than I do the writing part, but I do both
Yep.
because it's a good thing to do.
And that's our industry. Let's make it's
You
our
got to do
industry.
all the things.
Right, right. All right. Well, let's bring it in for a landing. Give me one small, doable action that someone can take today to start building that, as you would say, real confidence. Give me one thing.
So I think tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you say to yourself, I am strong, I am capable. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this doesn't work for me. It works. There's tons of research behind it. It's like if you want this job, it's not just the manifesting part, it's putting the work behind it. So people talk about manifesting. So say the things, but do the work. So I am capable. I am strong. I am going to get this job. I am putting the work to do it too, though.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, if I could put a little jollis on there,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to hope.
Oh, gosh.
How many
Yeah.
times do you hear, Simone, people go, well, I don't want to get my hopes up.
Mm.
I'm one who says, oh, yeah, you do. And they go, but listen. And I heard this said once, I thought it was the greatest line ever. It was in a sports article. There is a penalty for hope. It's disappointment. Yeah, you might be disappointed if it doesn't come through. But to me, it's not even close. We have to accept the fact that, yes, you might be disappointed, but you must hope. Hope is so important.
It is. It's so something I say to my kids all the time. If you never ask, you'll never know.
Mhm.
So, what's the worst thing that someone can say to you is no. But if you don't try, the answer is already no. So, you have to try. You have to hope. You have to put yourself out there. And that's how you move forward.
Bingo. The extraordinary, unordinary you. Available at, I'm assuming, every bookstore and online store that we can find it on, correct? Good. And the
Correct.
Jollis group, I will tell you, boy, I'm proud. I'm going to give Team Jollis a big thank you. Our last week's guest went from 12 pre-orders. The book was on pre-order to 150. I love those kind of
Wow.
numbers. Let's take this extraordinary, unordinary you, which is out, and let's put 150 reviews on there because
That would
Simone's
be
going to buy
awesome.
me
Thank
dinner
you.
if that happens,
Yes, I
wherever you
will.
are. Where are you? Where are you located?
I'm in Sarasota, Florida. So,
All
yes, I will
right.
definitely,
Well, if I
wherever
get
you
down
are,
there, I get you
yeah.
150 reviews. When I get down there, it's at least a cup of coffee.
And I actually, my next book comes out in February 3rd. And that one is called Real Confidence. So,
There you go.
yeah. So I'm really
Perfect. How do
excited
people
for
get a hold
that
of
to
you?
happen. Best is my website, SimoneCanego.com. There's a way to contact me there and, for speaking opportunities, just in general. If you have a question or a comment, just leave it. I will absolutely respond.
Yeah, that's where I push people. Just website, you contact, all that. But no one's going to have a prayer on spelling that. So just spell that, particularly
Yeah.
that last name out.
So Simone, Simone, last name is Knego. And I'm the only Simone Knego in the world. So even if you spell it wrong, I think you're going to find me.
There you go. Perfect. Well, been an absolute treat. I will tell you that you're a good success story because you or your publicist reached out, and we're hearing from people on a daily basis. But we look at materials, and your stuff is good, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm glad we were able to make this work, and I just want to thank you for being on.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You bet. We'll do it again as well as we can next time, everyone. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.